One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. So let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
What up, though? 7 days. We back again for another episode of Domino Effect. March Bishop. We got Mike Ball. Got Aaron Olinger. What's up, everybody? Glad you're all able to take your time out to come in and kick it with us for about an hour until we can dig down into another story. And before we start, don't forget to hit that like button so we can get it out on the proper algorithm and get this set up. So everybody's saying that what's happening right now is because
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear?
Damn. You got to come back in. Come back in. Here, I'll kick him out. Go ahead.
I'm bringing back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come back in.
Everybody's saying right now that what's going on is because of the war. But let me ask you something. Why does one conflict certainly affect oil, food, water, and power all at the same time? That's not normal. That's not coincidence either. It's a system. It's a part of a system that's under pressure. And tonight, we're not just going to be talking about the war, but we're going to be talking about what was already breaking before the war ever started. Because once you see how all of this connects, then you're going to understand everything in a whole different aspect. And if you feel like this stuff is getting tighter, more expensive, or a little harder to maintain, then just know that this is a lot bigger than you think. So this is what we're going to jump into today. So we've been talking about the war for the past couple of weeks, different parts of it, different aspects of it. And last week we brought up um, talking about the energy crisis, and this energy crisis isn't just for us. This is a worldwide energy crisis that's going to affect each and every person in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And this one here, we're gonna kind of dig into that a little bit more because it's a lot more to this than actually meets the eye. So I'm gonna start with it from there. So everybody, as the reason for everything and why everything is actually happening right now. And yes, it is a factor, and it absolutely matters. But that's not really the full story, because what this situation did was expose something that was much bigger. And everybody's heard about the Strait of Hormuz. That's one of the most critical oil routes in the world. Roughly 20% of the oil through the global supply flows through that narrow stretch of, uh, of water there, right along the border or the coast of Iran. So when the tensions rose there and the shipping got disrupted from when they closed the Strait of Hormuz, that was one of the most um, that was the most criticalest thing because everything stopped. A lot of the oil tankers was on standstill, and anyone that had any kind of alliance with the U.S., they were automatically wasn't letting them come through. So that affected a lot of these countries because a lot of these countries depend on that oil that's coming through that strait. Mind you, the U.S. is only getting 1%, but you have countries like China that gets like 90% from there. You have Russia that gets oil from there. All of these other countries get a profound amount of oil from that area.
Europe and all of that. Yep.
Yeah. So the real question is why does this one location have the power to impact the entire world like that? I mean, you wouldn't think that just one little thing like that would have such global impact, but it really does.
Shipping lanes are very powerful. Yep.
Hmm. But if you think about it like this: if you were on a highway that carried 20% of the food across the country, and that highway became blocked, you wouldn't just have traffic problems; you would have shortages because those semis couldn't get where they needed to go, and that's what we got going on right now. So the war actually didn't create the problem. It exposed how dependent we are on a system that has very, very, very little room for disruption. And when a system like that has no margin, that pressure, even though the smallest that it is, becomes an absolute problem. Now we've been talking about this for several weeks, and I'm gonna let Aaron jump in because I know he's gonna get to explaining this part right here. But
Yeah.
so we'll talk about what's actually going on right now, the new stuff that's going on that's happened within this past 7 days that we haven't been on here, and then we're gonna go into the rest of this. So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay. Bishop, you don't mind, put up picture 2 if you don't mind. Okay. What this shows here is how easily an enemy nation can choke off the flow of oil to the world. The world is totally dependent upon it. It's dependent upon it through something called just-in-time system. And just-in-time has no room to be fractured or anything. Stuff stops flowing, people's and nations are affected. Okay, go to picture number 1, please. Right now, these are the countries that have oil reserves. You have 188 countries in the world, but only a certain amount of them produce oil, and then only a certain amount of them have oil reserves. As you can see by this picture, we're number 9 on that list. China doesn't produce a lot of oil, but they've been preparing for war with the United States for the last 15 years. So is Russia. So their supply of oil is much higher right now for reserves to power their war machine. Plus, Russia's been tied down for the last 4 years in Ukraine. And they just recently announced in the last week that they're no longer going to export oil or gasoline. They're going to hold it for their military and for their people. So Russia is a major supplier of oil to the world. And with them holding back on exports, that's going to definitely have a major problem right there. But you can go ahead and take that down.
So what's the recent that you be on the news all day and all night on this? So what do you got on this?
Well, right now, seeing that we're in a ceasefire, Iran is setting up a toll booth practically. That's what I'm going to call it. The average ship, not container ship, but the oil ships are carrying about 2 million barrels of oil. What they're going to do is they're going to charge $1 per barrel that's on the ship. So if there's 2 million barrels on the ship, they're going to charge $2 million for a ship to come through that strait right now.
Right.
And you have to pay for it in Chinese yuan or a cryptocurrency called stable coin. And then you have to be a nation friendly to Iran. If they check the nation of origin of the ship and it's a friendly nation and you're not bringing it to the United States, the destination is to a friendly country, then they're going to have a speedboat escort you through the minefield basically and take you through the strait. But a lot of people are thinking, well, it's just the oil tankers being held up. No, it's also the container ships, computer chips, gym shoes, clothing, anything that's on those container ships that would be coming over here, medicines, those things are all going to start running in shortages worse than what we saw during COVID.
Aaron, look at that map right there. That's the map currently. This is live right now.
Okay.
I used to use marine vessel traffic and all of that.
Okay.
Back in the day when I was doing my shipping stuff. And so, anyways, here's the live current map right now and current movements. And you can see that there is nothing. It's shut down. Earlier today, there was a little bit of movement going on before the whole, where they said, nope, we're shutting it all down. So, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of ships.
Yeah. And see, Europe right now, a third of their countries are about to run out of oil in the next 8 days. By the end of April, all of Europe will be without power or anything because they're all about to run out of oil. You have Britain, you got Italy, you have Japan, you got a few other nations that are being real critical of the United States right now because they feel that we should have came to them first and told them what our plans were to go into Iran. And they're kind of mad at us for not giving them advance warning so that they could be better prepared. But in the state of affairs of the world, we're living in perilous times now. Those nations should have been stocked up and ready to go. When you got Russia and China arming themselves to get ready to fight against the United States, then the handwriting's on the wall. Why did you not stock up? That's just retarded to me. And now you done failed your people because by the end of this month, if things don't change, Europe is going to be sitting in the dark.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
So I'm gonna stop there.
Aaron, speaking of the for Europe, you know how the strait is obviously shut down right now.
Yes.
And we were talking about how the Houthis absolutely can shut this trade route down right here, which it's currently open right now.
Right.
But if this is the main hub to get to Europe, right? So this is a lot of that same oil that does pass through the strait actually needs to pass down here to go to Europe as well. So we're always kind of watching and making sure that this traffic is also moving. But yeah, it's something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, and see, right now, Russia's satellites are feeding Iran real-time surveillance. So that they can see how our ships are moving, how the Israelis are moving, and then China's upgraded Iran's radars, and they also replaced the Western GPS systems with their encrypted GPS system. So they're making Iran's missiles and stuff much more accurate. But I'll stop there.
You know, today it actually started flowing today for a little bit once it came out that we was going to do this 2-week ceasefire.
Mhm.
Right.
And at that point it opened up a little bit, and they were actually starting to let some ships go through
few-
the strait.
Right.
And then the missiles started coming. So Israel started shooting missiles in Lebanon, and there was a little controversy on it at first because it was said that include Lebanon, and then you had someone to go in there and say no, Lebanon wasn't included, but it actually was included. You know what I mean?
Right.
So so you had the missiles start firing, and of course you had the retaliation strikes, and they start hitting Bahrain, and they start going back and forth. So this quote ceasefire really isn't a ceasefire right now because they're still shooting.
Well, here's one of the main issues, kind of something that we saw this last time with Israel and their war with Hezbollah, is the last time that they got a ceasefire. If you guys remember, it wasn't actually a ceasefire with Hezbollah. It was a ceasefire with the Lebanese government, right? And so the Lebanese government, it's basically like now it's on the Lebanese government to calm their own radicalized group down, right? And so that's kind of exactly where we're at right now, where like Lebanon and the government may have been involved, but Hezbollah was definitely not involved in those like ceasefire agreements. Like they're like, no, we didn't agree to this shit.
And
Yeah,
see
I
what
get you on that.
Mhm.
But you also got to think that, okay, so when Iran put out that 10-point plan that they wanted, which I think all is as a crock, and we'll get to that later on. But a part of that was that Hezbollah and the Houthis would be left alone. There would nobody mess with them. Now, if that's a part of your plan, and you know that there is an actual ceasefire going on for whatever kind of negotiations that you're trying to do, so it really should be whether the Lebanese government tells them or not, you know what's going on. You know that you're a part of this 10-point plan. So you should knock it off. You know what I mean? So being the fact that you still doing it, it's like, okay, so why would I include them if they still shooting? You know what I mean? Like then you could also turn this around on Israel. You know we was getting ready to do that. Why'd you shoot over there? You knew that this is what we was doing. You know what I mean? So I think a couple things are going to have to come into play there. Number one, Iran is going to have to have talks with whoever that they're trying to put into this 10-point plan. Like, okay, y'all need to cool it out. But the U.S. also needs to tell Israel, stop. I mean, real simple, stop.
Yeah, that would be super
if you're gonna keep
nice.
doing it.
That'd be super nice if Bibi wasn't like the puppet master of the whole thing. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying. Anyways.
But to me, Iran, as of today, we're supposed to be in a ceasefire. Iran is still firing on Kuwait. They fired on UAE yesterday. They fired on their oil plants. And what amazed me was UAE actually fired back today. And they fired at some of the port oil installations of Iran in retaliation. So I'm like, okay, now these people you keep firing at, are they going to get involved now and start shooting back? I mean, you have the Houthis is in control of a major part of Yemen, and the capital of Yemen is under Houthi control, and they're so well armed by Iran. The Yemenese army isn't strong enough to retake the territory. Part of Iraq is controlled by Hezbollah. Then another section of it is controlled by Islamic Jihad. Then you have Lebanon, that the lower half of Lebanon and the Golan Heights is controlled by Hezbollah. the Lebanese army's not strong enough to control Hezbollah because Iran has trained Hezbollah and armed them well enough that the nation's military is not strong enough to take them on. And in 13 days, if an agreement's not signed, and I don't think it's going to be, Iran is calling on its civilians to be ready to be called to action. They want them to form a formation of human shields around critical infrastructure like water plants, bridges, power plants, targets that they know we're going to hit. So when you start seeing news and they start saying the United States is firing on civilians, no, that nation is putting those people in harm's way. And if Israel hits them or whatever, it's going to be major news to the world that we're firing on civilians when they're putting themselves in the way to be human shields or being ordered in the way by their government. So that was called on today, but I'll stop there.
By doing that, though, you causing a whole humanitarian issue right there.
Yep.
Because if you strike that while you have civilians that's blockading those places, then you can turn around and say, that you're guilty of war crime.
Yep.
Hitting civilians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yeah, so I see exactly where that's going. Now, when they're talking about this 10-point plan, and a lot of this is basically where they control the strait. They get reparations for all the damage that's been caused over there. Not to mess with the Houthis and not mess with Hezbollah, and I mean it's wanting all their sanctions lifted, which the sanctions were already lifted. So they making money over there anyway. Plus they charging everybody in between $1 to $2 per gallon, for whatever they have in those ships. But one of the things, though, like you said, they're using the Chinese yuan, but then they also using stablecoin as well. So you basically easing your way around the dollar anyway, because you're using another currency to go around it, which that's been one of the biggest issues dealing with over there, because the U.S. is heavily vested over there because of the petrodollar.
Mm-hmm.
So this plan that they put out, there's no way in hell that the U.S. would agree to that plan.
Not even to 1 point, right?
Right. And like I was saying before the show started, if we agreed to one thing on that 10-point plan, you lost. Because you went from nothing going on over at all, there was no problems in the Strait of Hormuz doing that before all this started, to now they getting a toll, they got the sanctions lifted, and now they trying to get boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? If that's not what we went over there for. You know what I mean? And if you settle for anything on there, then that's a loss all day. Even if it's just a minor one, it's a loss.
Yeah, it's accepting not necessarily defeat, but I would say like we couldn't get our objectives done completely, right?
Right.
And that would be a fail to the Pentagon.
I mean, if you go into where there is actually free flowing, where ships and cargo tankers and fuel tankers, whatever, going back and forth at will with no issues whatsoever, to now the point that they're paying a toll to go through, and it's a specific toll depending on who they're friends with, who they're in alliance with.
Mm-hmm.
They getting over. I mean, like they just hit that Philippine tanker yesterday, because it tried to take off through there. You know what I mean? I don't know why. It even tried. It was thinking it was going to make it through there,
right?
But it tried. Got a hole blew in the side of it. You know what I mean? And a lot of those tankers that you got sitting out there, a lot of them insurance companies that was insuring those loads are no longer insuring them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if anything happened to them, to those ships, they get hit, blowed up, whatever.
That's a straight liability.
Loss.
Yeah,
that's a straight loss on you. I mean, so it's a lot that's going on dealing with that. So we're going to talk about the reason why this energy is is it's already been in trouble. I mean, it wasn't like this here just kind of put it all out into the forefront, but it's actually been going on for a number of years. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of this stuff has actually been just kind of hid up under the rug. And nobody really understood once you started connecting the dots on all this stuff, really understood like, okay, by this happening here, what's the domino effect dealing with that? The overall trickle down as to how what's going on over there is affecting me right now. I mean, so the energy system is already under pressure, like I said, before it even started. So over the past few years, there's been a major shift on how energy is being handled. These governments has pushed forward clean energy, solar, wind, electric vehicles, and on paper, that seemed like it was kind of going in the right direction. But the issue dealing with that isn't just the idea. The issue is how the transition was supposed to be managed. Because at the same time that we were moving towards this whole clean energy thing, we've also seen instability on how these programs were funded and how they was even executed. So there's been projects that were approved and then got delayed. Funding was allocated to other things. They were reduced, they were redirected, and in some cases, some of these companies, like the ones that was involved in like the wind and the wind turbines and stuff like that, were actually being paid to not do the project and to just find something else to do, basically.
Mhm.
So what that creates right there is uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty dealing with energy, all your investments slow down. These
Prices go up.
Prices go up. These companies hesitate to build. A lot of these projects take longer, and the infrastructure just really didn't expand in the way that it needed to. And at the same time, you have the overall traditional energy like oil and gas that's also been reduced, dealing with what's going on over in Iran right now. And in certain periods, especially like after COVID, and then you have price crashes. And usually every time something goes on, whether it's weather related or turmoil in one of these other countries or anything like that, oil and gas prices automatically shoot up. I mean, that's usually like the very first thing that goes up is oil and gas. So now we're in a situation where we don't fully commit to the old system, but we're also didn't fully commit to a new one that they were trying to put in place as well. So that leaves you kind of stuck in the middle. And demand isn't slowing down, it's actually exploding.
Mhm.
So you got these data centers, you got AI, you got electric vehicles, you got the crypto mining. All these require massive amounts of electricity. And when you get that rise in demand, compounded with an aging power grid, the energy system just isn't going to be what you want it to be. I mean, a lot of these places just here in the U.S. has not been fully restructured since the late 70s, early 80s.
Mhm.
That's sad
No.
facts.
Right. Because now when something like a war disrupts suddenly, then there's actually no real cushion there. So there's no backup system to like fully take over. And that's why we're seeing all kind of pressure like we're seeing right now. And then too, it's not just about fuel and gas. It's a lot of stuff that comes through that strait. Like you said, you have a lot of shipping containers that come through there with various items. You got helium comes through there. You have fertilizer that comes through there.
Major amount of fertilizer. Yeah.
And right now, it's the time where a lot of these farmers are actually out putting down this fertilizer to be able to start planting for this year.
Yep. And
No.
prices are going skyrocket on that too.
Right. So not to mention, you remember last year, and where there was a lot of cuts that had been made. A lot of those farmers didn't end up getting all that money that they were supposed to have gotten because when they cut USAID. So they didn't end up getting all that money. So now they were already in the hole. And then when Congress turned around and gave up that 330 to help out the farmers, not all the farmers end up getting that. They kind of centralized around the big cattle farms and the big farmers, what I mean, the ones that was producing mass amounts, but like independent farmers and stuff like that, they didn't get shit. So, they're still in the hole, trying to keep from losing their land and paying back the bills that they didn't get from the beginning of the year. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of stuff that kind of transition and expanded from that. You know what I mean? But you don't. Like I said, people really don't realize exactly what all is really going on there. Now, mind you, like we're talking about oil, and we say like, okay, so we're good. Not necessarily, because you have to realize that Venezuelan oil is thick, basically like mud for real.
Mhm.
It's real
Correct.
heavy crude, and a lot of the 1% oil that we was getting from over here, we was actually mixing with that at the refinery to thin it down to be able to use it for where it was so thick. You know what I mean? Even though we're only using 1%, you also have to realize that the U.S. does not judge how much the oil prices is going to be. That's through OPEC,
Mhm.
and that's a worldwide organization. You know what I mean? So it's not just the oil isn't just going to be high here; it's going to be high across the globe. I mean, and a lot of these countries, like Aaron was saying earlier, don't have mass reserves. I was at work today, and somebody tried to tell me that we had 100 billion barrels in the oil reserve. I'm like, you 100 billion barrel lie. That's not true. That's not true. And I don't even know who told you that. Yes, there is reserve, but there have been plenty of times that they've actually tapped into that reserve to try to keep the oil prices from going so high here in the US. But that's not a substantial thing that you can do all the time, because you have to put back what you took out. You know what I mean? So it ain't like you can just keep sitting there just taking oil from the reserves, you know what I mean? And like, oh yeah, the gas is gonna stay at this price. Okay, but how are you gonna replenish that? So you never know what's gonna happen. So you gotta have that on reserve. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that, Aaron?
Well, I say you're 100% on spot with that. And I want to cite about 3 examples of how local industries here are going to be affected. I'm going to use one example in Europe right now. I don't know if people realize it or not, but to fly from Britain to Germany or fly from France to Poland, the airline fees have doubled and in some areas tripled this week just because they're running out of oil over there. And they're expecting them to quadruple by the end of the month and even go higher. And right now, the airline industries over there are in fear because they're working on very low margins. They're in fear that they may go out of business because it would become too expensive for people to fly, and they're not going to be able to make the revenues. Then look at transportation, totally trucking. Um, I'm the truckers that I personally know, they're not getting rich at being truckers. I mean, they might make 50 to 100,000 a year, but they're working on low margins, and they constantly complain to me how much the fuel bites into how much money they make. If gas continues to go up over here, products will get higher, and some of those truckers aren't going to be able to continue to make payments on their trucks. A lot of them are getting their trucks taken. And then you got the hospitality industry, tours, which is tourism. Um, that people start running out of gas, start running out of oil, running out of power. People aren't going to travel the same way they did. They're going to start moving differently. So all this is going to have an impact on different nations' economies. And I mean, you can keep going and going, citing examples, but I just wanted people to see how that's going to play out. Plus, power itself. We've already experienced our power bills going up. they're going to get higher if these shortages continue to go. Nothing else, greedy people who own these companies will raise prices because they see an opportunity to make money and increase their profits.
Of
And
course.
there's going to be people who's going to take advantage of that. But I'll
Mhm.
stop there. I'll stop there.
Yeah, one thing that everybody has to realize is that everything is connected through energy, every
Hmm.
single thing. So I think energy powers transportation, farming, water systems, infrastructure. But when that energy becomes unstable, everything tied to that starts to get that pressure. Everything starts to grip up. So what looks like separate problems is actually just one system just reacting. Like you said, just like a domino effect. It's just going through it. Um, we were talking last show. We was talking about the water, for instance. And we were saying water is going to be basically the next gold,
That's right.
and the reason for that is because there is a actual freshwater shortage here in the U.S. and there are certain hydroelectric dams and stuff like that that have been that's been talking that if it continues to progress like it is now, that a lot of these rivers and these lakes are going to be completely dried up by the end of the year. Now, you wonder where all that's happening at. Like, why are these rivers and these lakes drying up like that? Well, they're drying up because of these data centers, and I was talking to someone the other day, and they was talking about how they were using AI to make pictures and stuff. You can go on there and put your picture on there, and they make a little funny picture or whatever. And a lot of people do that. And a lot of people use Chat GPT and they use Gemini and they use all the other AI tools that there is to make. And yes, they are good to use. And yes, it does make your job a hell of a lot easier. And it's like the go-to now. But in centers, these data centers uses enough electricity to basically power a small town per day.
No kidding.
Not to
I bet
mention
you Silicon
it
Valley could probably do the entire state.
right. Not to mention it uses almost 1 million gallons of water a day for these data centers.
People
I
don't
mean,
even know
so
that.
right. So you think about what's going on here. You're using 1 million gallons a day. So while you sitting there making them funny pictures and on Chat GPT and all this other stuff, then you know this is where this is coming from. Then realize that picture that you just made is you basically losing 1 million gallons of water per day to be able to do that.
And we
Well,
pay for it too.
right. So what
Nineteen
happens?
ninety nine a month.
Right. So what happens? The Colorado River is getting ready to dry up. Lake Mead is about to dry up. You got hydroelectric plants that's actually getting ready to shut down because there's not enough. There's not going to be enough water to actually conduct the electricity that you need to fuel a lot of those areas. So you're going to have power shortages.
Hmm.
You're going to have blackouts. It's going to happen. You know what I mean? And like I said, the domino effect. One thing hits another, which hits another. You know what I mean? We don't really think about it that way, but if you go through, if you don't believe me, go on there and look it up, and it'll show you. It'll tell you it's there. But you don't hear them talk about this though. You don't hear them on the news talking about how these um, data centers is basically sucking up all your water that you're not going to have it. But we also talked about a while ago how Nestle and Bill Gates and Vanguard and BlackRock was trying to buy all this farmland and all this property. And we trying, we was talking about it. It was like, okay, so why are they buying all this property? They're not buying it for the farmland. They could give a damn about the farmland.
It's about what's underneath it.
They want the water aquifers that's underneath.
Yeah.
Because if you can control the water, you can control everything. That's exactly what's going on right now. So Aaron, let me ask you a question. So we're just talking about that water, okay?
Hmm.
And um, I don't know how much you know about like the hydroelectric dams and stuff like that. Um, but can you kind of give like a short answer as to why that part right there is so important? Because not only does the hydroelectric dam dealing with water, but it also deals with our power grid.
Right. I mean, we just had an attack. Um, I think it was the Hoover power dam or something. And it was a failed attack. Thank God. Guy drove all the way from New York out there, and he tried to ram the power station because, of course, there's no security protecting it. Probably tore up his car. I'm sure he hit the wrong thing. But he had a car full of guns and stuff, and it was definitely a terror attack. It was just a lone wolf deal.
When did
Nothing.
that happen?
Um, I think about 4 or 5 days ago.
Wow, I didn't even hear about it.
Yeah,
Crazy.
and he failed, and then the France thing happened a day or two later, where they tried to do a bombing in France. But that, as far as the dam goes, and I'm gonna say this: when it comes to water, the human body can only go 3 days without it. After that, your body starts to shut down. At 1 to 2% dehydration, you feel thirst. At 5% dehydration, you're greatly parched. You got to have water. At 10%, 8 to 10% dehydration, you start to have brain fog. Your kidneys start having pain in your kidneys, your liver. Um, and at 12 to 15% dehydration, death ensues. You're only going to go 3 days without it. And 10 to 15%, 12 to 15% dehydration may not seem like much, but you will not survive. So water's critical. And then that dam supplies so much power to the areas that if they took that out, a massive region would go down without power. And that's what their goal is. It's a major our antiquated power grid is a major target for any terrorist groups or any organizations we have inside the United States right now. That's a number one target. And they know it's unprotected. 9 to 18 substations get taken down. The whole country's in the dark for probably a minimum of 2 years, because it takes 2 years to build those 500,000 pound uh, turbines that they have to bring in here in special ships. And who makes them? Korea and China. And they're not going to
Shit.
be in no hurry to get them to us. So I feel that with the National Guard or different people in the military bases that's sitting on base, we should have protection around those things. And they should be hardened against EMP attack so that our Achilles heel cannot be exploited by our enemies. But I'll stop there.
But another thing that we've talked about before is how you know we can't go to other countries and actually buy land on our own. Like
Mm-mm.
you can't go to
Right.
China and buy land. You
Can't
just
go
can't.
nowhere and do that.
But they come here and buy all they want. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they were trying to buy land that was close to like military bases and stuff like that, which sometimes they were able to catch these deals before they happened and stop them, but some of them they didn't. You know, um, I think throughout the years we have kind of us as a country that got complacent about what's really going on here. You know what I mean? And like how we said before, and I've said all the time, a lot of times people don't really think about what's going on or really grasp the concept of what's going on because it's not happening to them per se.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
100%.
they don't really understand, and they really don't. It goes in one ear and out the other until it happens to them. And then once it happens to them, then it's okay. Everybody come in, and
Now they're begging for a voice.
now,
Yeah.
right now, we got to figure this out. You know what I mean? So, but then too, you also have the thing um, where you're dealing with, okay, we just talked about the water. We just talked about the farmland. Um, you know that it's going to be, if they don't get the right fertilizer here to do what they need to do, a lot of these farms are not going to be able to produce this year.
Yeah, I got a
So,
weird stat for you on that, by the way. Roughly 30 to 33% of all global fertilizer trade moves goes through that Strait of Hormuz. So that's a lot. 30 to 33%
right.
of the global level. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens when these farms can't produce? Now, you also got to think how me and Aaron was talking about earlier. We used to produce in abundance, where we
We
had
could
everything
sell.
we needed, and we were able to export and still have plenty. Now they
Right.
have shrinking that down dramatically.
Mhm.
Now, if these farmers don't put crops out right, and you still have the issue with, like a lot of the soybean and stuff like that, that goes over to China and stuff like that too. You know what I mean? So export part of this, but if you're not able to plant like you should to get the yields that you need, then you have food shortages, which
Mhm.
could actually start a famine. That is
Mhm.
um Aaron, you was talking about something in relation to this earlier.
Yeah.
You-
Some people may not like him, but he's making a valid point here. It's Minister Louis Farrakhan with the Nation of Islam. He has warned his people just recently that in the past, the United States could grow an abundance of food and not only feed ourselves, but feed the world. But if you track from the 70s up till now, you'll notice that our food production has been steadily declining, including meat production has been declining. That's the reason why they've invented this GMO fake meat. And they're coming out with these GMO crops because they're realizing that our production is going down, both meat wise as well as crop wise. So with weather patterns changing, certain crops will only grow in certain temperate climates. And when temperatures get too high or get too rainy, those crops won't grow the same. We're expected to have a what do they call that when you have a super hot summer? What was that called? A drought.
the drought.
Uh, yeah, we're expecting to have another drought this year, and in so doing, crops are going to die in the field, and without proper fertilizing and proper being able to attend them, because you got to have the machinery to attend massive fields. Without oil or gasoline, you can't do it. If you don't have fertilizer, you can't grow the same amount of stuff. And then just recently, the American honeybee has entered the endangered species list.
Really?
Yes,
What? I
with,
did
with
not know that either.
without bees,
You have
uh,
nothing.
yeah, you ain't gonna be eating nothing without
Yeah,
that
we need
pollination.
bees.
Yeah.
Right.
So that scared the hell out of me when I recently learned that.
Hmm.
So our production is going down, and people need to get back to basics and start having that backyard garden to grow herbs and food. Because if you're growing it yourself, you know the quality of what it is, you know what's on it, and you know how safe it can be. Um, and it cuts your food bill down. I mean, a tomato and peppers and onions, man, they're getting expensive now. I bought some bell peppers and they was like three of them for $5. And
Yeah,
I
that's
was like,
crazy.
that's crazy.
That is crazy. Used to buy this shit for 30 cents. You know what I
I
mean?
know. And a big tomato is like $1.50 now. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be growing my own. There's no doubt.
That's right.
Right.
But I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, they've already been saying on the news here that Florida is actually it's gonna be extremely dry, to the point of a drought in Florida, which would tear the citrus market up, not being able to get um, the water that you're supposed to get. That you think like, okay, Florida shouldn't be in a drought situation. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you guys get a lot of rain too.
You
You know
got
what I
the
mean?
ocean on both. See, that's the thing. We haven't been getting it. We
Oh,
haven't been getting it now.
man,
Here for the
we've been
past
getting hammered.
Yeah, here for the past couple days. Yeah, it's been storming pretty good through here, but I mean, there hasn't up until a couple days ago, we didn't have no rain in this area here for it was weeks. We didn't have anything here, and like there's plants and all that stuff out there that's dry on a bone. You know what I mean? Like haven't even started to bloom, haven't even turned green. It's like it's just brown. You know what I mean? Um, Now South Florida, yeah, they've been getting some rain. You know what I mean? But up
But the
in
northern part,
right central and northern
central and
Florida,
northern, right?
they've been getting hit. You know what I mean? And that's where a lot of
I didn't even
your
know that. That's great.
that's where a
I
lot of
mean,
your orange grows and all that stuff. Orange, strawberries, all of that. That's all here in Central Florida.
we're just adding to the shit pile right now. It's just like it, it just can't get, you know, even
Right.
down to water, man. Yeah, we were just talking the importance of water, right? With in regards to
And then
Iran,
two,
and
you got two
now
different things. Well, you got two different things going on. Number one, three. Number one, you got the fertilizer problem, so you to grow these crops. You got two, you got the drought. We're not getting enough rain actually down here to be able uh, to keep everything growing. And then three, you done ran all the migrants out of Florida, so ain't nobody working them. So a lot of them like the strawberry fields and orange fields, stuff like that, they're not staffed at 100%. You know what I mean? So you're gonna end up losing some of that yield as well. You know what I mean? But then kind of piggyback on that, I was telling Aaron earlier that this whole thing that's going on is kind of like you playing that game Jenga. You know how you
Mhm.
it was like you really don't know whether it's gonna fall or not, but you know that it's
it's
gonna
gonna
shift
come
once you take that
it's gonna
little
come crumbling down, and hopefully it's not on my move. You know what I mean? Hopefully it was
right.
on your move over there. You know?
But you already seeing early signs of this though, because you got countries that's reducing work weeks to try to save on gas, keep people from running around. You got fuel being rationed in certain areas. You got businesses struggling with energy costs. You got some places that are cutting the power at a certain time. I seen a thing the other day where New York was talking about proposing a bill to where they
Temporarily shut down.
shut down the power at like 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're gonna run into this problem. We're gonna have some blackouts.
Yeah, that's
We're
miserable.
gonna have some power problems. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the stuff dealing with the power grid by itself, we're gonna face a lot of that simply because of those data centers. You know,
because they take up so much water and
right,
resources behind it.
right. And then okay, so we be like, okay, so what about the renewable energy, solar, wind, all that? Okay, well, all that stuff got marked out at the beginning of the year. So they took that clean air initiative and the initiatives to do a lot of the renewable energies and all that stuff. A lot of them programs got scuffed. So so what are you going to do? I mean, because everybody right now should have a generator. Everybody. I don't give a damn where you live. You should have a generator. You know what I mean? And like I said, I got a big gas one out here, but I'm gonna actually go and get a solar one because that's gonna be the ticket right now. Because you're not gonna be able to go. I mean, I'm not going to fill up no gas can and pay $5 a gallon for no gas. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna go solar, and it's a lot of these companies right now are promoting those solar generators and stuff like that for people because they are. I mean, the writing's on the wall. It's going to happen.
Well,
It's
we
just
need
a
to
matter
dip
of
in
time.
our oil reserves at this point. You know, I this is the way I look at it. This is where it's meant for, right? We have enough to obviously sustain. So, and even Trump was like, "Yeah, we have enough to." I mean, shit, we are a massive holder. We'll sell it and do all this stuff. Well, great, go ahead and do it, but it's not happening. Because of multitude of reasons, such as BRICS and stuff like that. But I think that at bare minimum, we should be using those reserves at least for Americans, right? Where we're getting somewhat of a relief where we're not importing oil, we're using our own resource that's underneath our feet right now, and we don't have to experience the rise of any type of gas, diesel, any type of petroleum product, right? So I don't know. It's something that is bizarre to me. Like, we have it here. Why don't we just refine it and use it ourselves?
Well, I think the biggest thing dealing with that now, yes, the actual oil reserve doesn't go anywhere. That stays here. But I
And
think
what's also
going
below
on,
us too.
right? I think
Besides
what's
that.
going on though is that they don't really know what's going to happen. So you don't want to go and just start diving into that reserve and you start taking out billions of barrels and then something major happens. You know what I mean? So they're going into it a little bit just to kind of knock it down, just, you know what I mean, kind of knock the price down just a little bit, but not enough to where it's going to be a substantial drain, and they don't know what's going to go on. You know what I mean? Actually, nobody knows what's going to go on right now. You know what I mean? So it could be, we looking at something right now that could be, okay, it gets worked out in these 12, 14 days and everything cool, or all hell could break loose between now and then, though. We don't know that. You know what I mean? So they're not going to just jump right up in there and just start pulling up apple.
Well, that's kind of like the gold and silver market, just like like the stock market even has done a bit better than I thought it would. But especially gold and silver, that's something that is interesting because they knew they're looking way long term. They're looking 2 years, 3 years ahead of the time. Meanwhile, the rest of society is really on a day by day basis, right? So it's interesting how gold and silver didn't react as much as I thought it would. I thought it was going to kind of skyrocket during this whole thing, and it's held kind of at a position where it's like they're looking long term rather than the immediate right now, today, tomorrow kind of thing. They're like, I'm going to think a year ahead of time, right? So futures are not being affected as much. But go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit on food. I want people to realize that some of those ships coming over here with food on them, those container ships, and even trains here inside the country that's moving food back and forth to different states, those are commodities. They have only a certain amount of time that they have to reach the market in. And if there's not oil to transport, gasoline to transport them, that food spoils on those ships. That food spoils, and it creates
Fast,
food
too.
shortages. Yeah. And for those that are thinking about having gardens at their home, or if they live in an apartment, having something on their balcony, put up picture 4 if you don't mind, Bishop.
Here, I'll help with that. Picture 4. Here it is.
Yeah. Right there is your 5 high yield crops that got good shelf life. And if you can grow them, they can take you into the winter. They're easy to store or to put back. Something to that you should really consider as part of your gardening, adding some of those plants to your garden, and it'll make your survival that much easier. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, we was talking about them potatoes the other day, wasn't we, Aaron?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna start hitting on that too. I was trying to think what was the other one. I'm trying to remember right off. So when we was talking about that, we was talking about the different foods that we can plant and whatever that could help out. And then, like I said, you have people that say, well, okay, well, like I live in an apartment, so I don't have any grass to ground to till up and actually farm. Said I have a yard, but I don't use it. I don't use it for that. I mean, I plant all my stuff and I buy those big totes from store. The big totes that you use to like store clothes and stuff like that. I buy those, and also use like 5-gallon buckets and stuff like that. And they're easy to grow through them. You know what I mean? You just go through and just drill some holes in the bottom of it, a couple of them on the side, put you some compost, some topsoil, um, and plant it. You know what I mean? And then if you do have to move, then you can just pick it up and move. You know what I mean? Um, to where it's easy. You know what I mean? They're easy to maintain that way. I had those plants that I talked about I did a while ago, and I planted those just to see how long that I could keep those plants living and producing. So they actually lasted 2.5 years straight through, produced the whole time. They finally withered away, maybe what, about a month or two ago, but they actually lasted 2.5 years in those toes. You know what I mean? So it can definitely be done. Um, and I'm like I said, I've been looking at those. At you jumped up and went and got that extra food over for Four Patriots.
Yeah, that's picture 5. If you got it
As,
right.
I
If you
don't think
don't,
I don't think we have that one.
No,
That
we
one
okay,
don't
that
have
one was the
5.
one I was
okay,
trying to load and it wouldn't
right,
load.
right. They got a great offer. Bishop was the one that turned me on to it. If you buy their 3-month food package, they throw in 2 extra 4-week packages. So you're getting a total of 5 months worth of food, emergency food. It's freeze dried, easy to reconstitute. All you need is hot water. So you should be in a position to make a fire and be able to boil you some water. And you've got 5 months worth of food right there. You can't count on the government to come save you. It's just not going to happen. So take responsibility for yourself. Start getting your food reserves. If you can't afford to buy freeze dried food or MREs, start stacking up them canned goods because they've got anywhere from a 2 to 8 year shelf life, easy.
And if you can't afford it, you can go to your local shelter and stuff like that, and
Right.
you can
And
pick
the
some up.
food pantries will give them
Food
to you.
pantries. Yep.
I mean, right now, because of this war, nations in Europe and other places have put out a warning this week. The governments are warning their people to go out and buy weeks worth of food and water. And they're also telling their people to go talk to their doctors and see if their doctors would be willing to prescribe meds ahead of time for them. Because keep in mind, China makes 80% of the medications to the world. They could stop shipments at any time. India makes makes over 20%. We used to make all that stuff here in the United States, but due to greed and cheaper labor, we exported it to be part of this global market. And here again, it could come back and bite us in the butt. You have millions of Americans dying because they can't get their medications that they need. Uh, we got so many Achilles heels that we can be attacked on. That's the reason why I don't like this globalist system. We can trade
Yes.
with these other nations and still be a nationalist, but this is ridiculous right now. But if you don't mind, put up picture 3 if you don't mind.
Sure.
Right now, if shit hits the fan, people, these are the 10 items that are going to be gone first, and they're going to disappear at the stores. And I'm not telling you to go out and panic buy and run up your credit cards. I'm just saying start now and start picking up a few of these items and start putting them back because we don't know what's going to happen, how bad this situation is going to get. And again, no one's coming to save you. This is on you. So take some of this in consideration and acquire some of these items. But I'll stop there.
Mhm. So when you really step back and look at everything that we just talked about, this isn't about oil, isn't about Iran, and it isn't just about energy. It's about a system that the entire world depends on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's starting to show cracks. And part of that should really make you think that none of this has just happened overnight. It wasn't just this one thing that took place. It was a culmination of things that has already been going on. And this here is like as Mike say, the Achilles heel that actually got everything else, that's putting everything else um, to light, because these pressures have been building for years. Um, you got a rising demand, you got aging infrastructure, you got global dependence, and they're all stacking up piece by piece. But they've been stacking up piece by piece quietly, and now it's starting to show. Um, Not all at once, but there's signs. So you got the higher gas prices, you have the more expensive food, strain on the power grids, conversations about these water shortages. And these aren't just random events, these are signals.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between people who get caught off guard and the people who aren't surprised is just being overall aware. And that's what we try to do on here every week, is to make everybody aware of what's really going on out here, so you can do your due diligence to make sure that you have what you need, family. Because the stuff that we're going through right now, this is just a precursor. This is easy right now compared to what's really going to go on here in the short, distant future. But I want to thank everybody for coming out, like always. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Pass these videos on to people, man, so we can get this word out. Hit that like button. Hit it on Mike's side. Hit it on my side. If you're not subscribed on Mike's side, go to subscribe over there. Vice versa. You know what I mean? This is between Mike's show and my show. This is truly two wings of the same bird.
Yep, it really is.
This is really two wings of the same bird. And we go out here every week, Mike every day, and just to do just that, just to spread the word, put this stuff out, talk about the things that mainstream really isn't talking about. I mean, it's not about the money. It's about putting out the word to be able to help as many people as you can while you can.
Yeah.
And I hope you all appreciate the fact that that's what we're doing tirelessly every week, putting these shows
From day
together.
one, by the way. That was the mission, day one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like I said, I appreciate all of you who come out every week, and I'll see you all in 7 days. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, what I want people to understand is this just-in-time system failed us during COVID. And with the oil situation and the war and different things going on, it is creating what Bishop mentioned to me earlier, a domino effect. When one domino falls, the next one falls, the next one falls. It's going to affect the stock market. It's going to affect your pocketbook, higher prices at the pumps, higher gas, higher prices for food, gym shoes coming in, clothing coming in from overseas. It's going to raise prices on everything. This domino effect is very serious, and it's going to affect everybody. As I said before, you're in a survival situation. And to me, you need to be stocking up, not panic buying, stocking for the worst case scenario. If it doesn't happen, you haven't lost nothing. But if it does happen, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing more gratifying than being able to depend upon your own abilities, your own skill sets, and to be able to make it through a situation and be still standing at the end and knowing that you thrived through it and you didn't suffer. And with that, I stop. So get started now. Get started now.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's almost like that vindication a little bit when shit goes kind of sideways and you've been having the same rhetoric for however many years, right? And however long. And and you're showing people, listen, you gotta prepare, you gotta do this, gotta blah blah. I mean, just for your own well-being. And then when it happens and you do have the resources and people are going and they're calling you like, hey, can I borrow a firearm of yours? No, you cannot. Sorry. Like, your time was then, right? Like, I was telling you this, but you just called me a conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like almost that vindication as well. Like, hey, man, we're honestly telling you guys on a factual basis of what's happening now and analyzing the past as well to be able to predict your own I guess, your own verdict, right? So,
Right.
listen, man, really it is within ourselves and our own responsibility to get ahead of the ball. You know, your survival is no one else's responsibility. It's your own. So that's all I wanted to say on that. Much love, honor, respect to everybody. On my side, of course, go over to Diamond Effect over there on Archbishop's side. Charles Darwin put a link for you guys. Make sure you guys go over there and hit the subscribe and like and all that. Listen, also, if you guys are on my side, we're going to be raiding our buddy Flow State, Dusty, Powder Dusty. Let them know we're coming through with the raid. Other than that, much love, honor, respect to everybody. We'll see you guys in 7 days. Much love.